What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 31 of the Hoop Venue podcast. My name is Tyler, and as always, I'm joined by my great friend Sean. Again, just so much happening in the NBA over these past few weeks. Today we're going to switch gears a little bit. I feel like in a lot of our recent episodes especially, we've been talking a lot about the bloodbath of the West, like the Western Conference just being so competitive, so ferocious with the seed changes and teams emerging out of nowhere to become contenders. Lakers. The East, though. The East has a lot going on, too. And I feel like we've kind of glossed over a lot of these Eastern Conference teams and what they're doing on both ends of the floor. Today, I want to start with one of the hottest teams in basketball, the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks are 8-2 in their last 10 games. They've won 4 straight. They look really good since acquiring Kyle Kuzma. So, Sean, I'll let you take the floor. How do you feel about this recent stretch from the Bucks?
I think the Bucks have, quieted some of the doubters after their just abysmal, was it 2-8 start to the season? Maybe it was 2-7. But I think getting Kuz in does a couple of different things for them. One, I will want to add, and this is even like taking some things with a grain of salt, but this kind of been Kuz's entire career. When shots are falling, he's a really, really fun and useful offensive player. He's shooting so far as a Buck, 39% on catch-and-shoot looks. He's been unstoppable if you left him open. 43% from three on uncontested looks from three. And then he's good enough to attack and close up, play off the catch, get to the rim and finish. He's a fine finisher at the rim. And he gives them a little bit more wiggle than what they had in Chris Middleton at this stage of Chris Middleton's career, playing next to Dame and playing next to Giannis. And that honestly kind of brings me to those two guys who are just playing at ridiculous levels right now. Like Damian Lillard, he's not 2023 Damian Lillard, which is objectively one of the best point guard offensive seasons we've seen ever. But man, is he damn close. Damian Lillard is a really, really, really good offensive player still. And we've had these conversations in the past, Tyler, about Dame really might still be a 1. We just don't know because he's playing next to Giannis. In terms of half-court priority. Maybe not the best player on the team in general, but 1 in terms of half-court priority is, I think, how we kind of addressed it. It's just insane shooting threat in the half court. And then Giannis is, ever so slowly like staying in the MVP race, even though I don't think it's a race. I think this is Shea's award to lose at this point. But Milwaukee's fun. I thought coming into the year, I think I remember saying, and this has obviously changed a little bit now because of how good Cleveland's been. But I said, even though I had New York higher in my power rankings coming into the year, I said if there was anybody in the East that were going to knock off Boston, it would have been Milwaukee. And the way Giannis is playing, the way Dame's playing, Kuz adding another variable that they just didn't have previously. Right now, the first round matchup is them in Indiana. That would be so fire to get Indiana playing the way they're playing right now. Milwaukee starting around in the shape. And then the winner gets the juggernaut that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Pacers, Cavs round 2, or Pacers, or Cavs, Bucks even. Those would be 2 elite series. But the Bucks are playing good ball. Shout out Giannis, shout out Dame, and Kuz bringing something of value from the wing spot that they just simply didn't have to start off the season.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, especially with what you said about Dame and Giannis playing at the level that they are. Like, there's something to be said. It kind of reminds me of what we were talking about with LeBron and AD, in not just earlier this season, but in years past. A lot of conversations have been had about you just don't want to see LeBron and AD in a series, regardless of what the other guys look like. That's kind of how I feel about Dame and Giannis, right? Like, I don't care if you're Boston, I don't care if you're Cleveland, I don't care if you're New York. If you are going into a 7-game series against Dame and Giannis at full strength, you're worried. Those guys just have so much offensive firepower. Dame is still one of the most dangerous on-ball players on the planet, especially in the pick and roll. Giannis is maybe the most devastating presence as a transition scorer we've ever seen. He's shooting like 48% from the mid-range now. It's just a new layer to his game with the isolations and if he's sagged off or if he's running off a ball screen and they go under. New dynamic there. So yeah, those two guys, you just don't want to see them. I think Kuzma, I saw the direction when Kuzma got traded, right? It was like, okay, they want to get younger and more athletic around Giannis because this team is old and slow. And that's why they were playing Andre Jackson big minutes. And I think what Kuzma does is he makes Andre Jackson obsolete in a way that now Andre Jackson's starting to get like DNPs. And it's because Andre Jackson was their only other plus athlete besides Giannis, right? Like they needed him on the floor to be a slasher, to be a cutter, to be a rebounder, and most importantly, to be a defender. And I think Kuzma has a lot of flaws. Like even in this stretch for the Bucks, he's only shooting like 54% true shooting. He's shooting like 32% from three. It's not like he's coming out and he's just this ultra efficient role player, but he brings these dynamics that they didn't have. For example, he can slash and put pressure on the rim, which is something Middleton could not do at all.
Especially on same like second side stuff.
Exactly. Like if Giannis or Dame creates an advantage and the ball finds Kuzma, he will continue to collapse the defense as a driver. Sure, he might take some ill-advised shots with that, but five out of 10,
understatement.
Even just 5 out of 9, 5 out of 8, 5 out of 10 times, whatever it is, he'll find the kickout pass. And then they have the shooters. They have Taurean Prince, they have AJ Green, they have Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, who is still out for however many games, which I'm sure a lot of Bucks fans actually would attribute this winning stretch to Bobby Portis being out, because I don't know if you know, they do not like Bobby Portis for the most part. The Bucks fans on Twitter, at least. I don't know about how the general fan base. Because when I went to a Milwaukee Bucks game, they freaking loved Bobby Portis.
Yeah.
Like, everyone in the arena was a Bobby Portis super fan. So I don't know if it's just on Twitter where they're not rocking with Bobby, or if it's just a new thing over the years. But, yeah, I think what worries me is you go into the playoffs and you have no type of center versatility. Like, I feel like the best version of this team is Giannis at the 5. I think Kuzma's size and rebounding ability makes that more tenable than ever. So ideally, look, I don't know how Giannis feels about playing the 5. I don't know how stubborn Doc Rivers is about not playing Giannis at the 5. I honestly think if I was heading into the playoffs with this Bucks roster and I was in charge of lineups and nothing else mattered, I think my most used playoff lineup would be Dame, AJ Green, Prince, Kuzma, Giannis.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also think, on that same line of thinking, if you're going to use Giannis at the 4 and start Brook, I get it, more size, more rim protection. Why does Prince start over AJ Green? That doesn't make sense to me. Because Prince sure is like a little bit more athletic and more lengthy of of a body, but Taurean Prince isn't bringing anything defensively to the point where you need to have him on the floor over another really, really good offensive weapon. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think the front court of Kuzma, Giannis, and Lopez is so big and has so much rim protection, which is another thing Kuzma brings that Middleton didn't. The ability to protect the rim from the weak side and things like that. Clean up at the rim. Grab like 8, 9 rebounds if he needs to. I think this team is interesting because of the 2 superstars and the size. What worries me is I think Brook Lopez, dare I say, might actually be a liability as a player in the playoffs. Because of the ill-advised shots, because of the fact that he's not really a threat to do anything but shoot the ball. And he never passes. Like, Brook Lopez does not pass out of the short roll. He doesn't pass off of rebounds. He doesn't pass off of mismatched doubles. He always goes up every time he touches the ball. And then he's not a good enough, an efficient enough scorer to justify that type of shot selection. And then on defense, every single high-level offense is attacking him in every single action. Because, yes, he can play drop. Yes, he can protect the rim. But, like you said, Indiana first round, 50 pick and pops with Halliburton and Turner. How is Lopez guarding that? How is he can't switch. He can't drop against that.
And then, like, the adjustment for Milwaukee is, like, you almost – it's a
you can't put him on anyone because everyone can attack. He's too slow.
Yeah, so, like, hold on. What I was getting at was – because even this adjustment, you kind of, like, fail at it anyway because Halliburton's an insane passer. You have, like, that low man who normally would tag a roll. He just has to, like – it would almost look like a peel switch where he's just going to peel off his man and take the pop guy so that Lopez can stand the drop. But then Hallie's just going to skip that thing over
to
Aaron
too slow. He's too slow to recover on that. He can't recover to the corner. He's too slow. And that's why I think you have to have Giannis at the 5 if you're going to be a good playoff defense. And it's not even just the Pacers. What is Brook doing against Cleveland? What's he doing against Boston? What's he doing against New York? What's he doing against Karl Anthony Towns? Like, Brook can't leave the paint defensively. And then with that, he doesn't leave the paint, and he still gets, like, 4 rebounds. So I don't know. I don't hate Brook Lopez. Like, I like him. I think he has nice traits as a player. Like, the archetype of... Here's the thing. I love the archetype of the stretch rim protector, right? The problem is Brook Lopez is the worst possible you can be at it. And that's just what kind of
move.
Right, that's where I'm at. It's just the fact that he's so old and he's so immobile. Like, bro, this team would look so different if they had like 2019 Brook Lopez.
Yeah.
When he was legitimately just one of the best defenders in the league and then knocking down threes. But at this point, he just can't move and he can't rebound. I don't know. I think, I guess, yeah. And I also think the offense would be at its best with Giannis at the 5 because I don't even think Brook Lopez is a floor spacer. Teams leave him open like a Grant Williams. He's just big as hell. So they don't really, it's not like Brook Lopez getting left open at 7'1" feels different than like Kendrick Nunn, or not Kendrick Nunn. That was the wrong person. Chris Dunn. I don't know why I missed that up. Chris Dunn being left open at 6'5". People look at a guard that can't shoot and
a little bit differently.
Like, right. Brook Lopez can shoot, but it's like, what's he shooting right now? What's he shooting
36%?
36, yeah, and it's all open threes. He's shooting 36%. And that's like kind of where he's always at every year, 36, 37. And it's all open. And the defense is going to keep leaving that open. And he will shoot it every time. He'll launch the three. If he, like, did you see the shot he took at the beginning of the shot clock at the end of the game when he took it from like 35 feet when they were down 3?
No, I did not.
He took like a 32-footer with like 30 seconds left in the game at a full shot clock. And it was like, bro, the defense is giving you that shot for a reason. Don't take it.
We are living with that.
Yeah.
Like, over, Dame setting up something. Hell yeah. Hey, if we lose or we go to overtime because Brook Lopez hits an early shot clock 3, we just got to live with that.
So my other thing is, if you're going to go Giannis full-time 4, I want to see more Jericho Sims. And it's just because you have the athletic presence, right? Like, I've been wishing for so long to see. We saw it at once. They had a recent close game. I can't remember who it was against. And their final possession to get a 2-point lead, I think it might have been Atlanta they were going up against. They were tied with like 30 seconds left. They ran a Dame and Giannis pick and roll, and Brook played from the dunker. Dame drew 2. Giannis got the rotation from the dunker and immediately dropped it off to Brook Lopez for a wide open layup. And I just couldn't stop thinking, like, imagine if that was Jericho Sims and Giannis also can throw a lob. How do you guard that? And Jericho Sims is like one of the biggest lob targets in the league. So it's like Giannis doesn't even need to have to hit that lob pass precisely. Just get it up quick. But then you have Sims on defense, and I don't really know if he can defend at a playoff level. I don't know, man. And that's what it just comes back to. I think the Bucks have a really nice, really fun, interesting roster. I want to see more Giannis at the 5. Maybe they're saving that for the playoffs to keep him healthy because that is more of a physical wear and tear type of position. I worry about that. Like yes, you don't want to go Giannis at the 5 against like Jokic, but you're not going to see Jokic until the final. And I don't think a Bucks and Nuggets finals is happening. So it's like if you're going to go up against Boston, Giannis has to play the 5 against Boston. Like, why would you have Brook Lopez on the court?
Is there a matchup in the East where, like, they go with their conventional rotation that you feel good about for Milwaukee? There's one that comes to my mind pretty
Were you
easily.
going to say Cleveland because of the double bigs?
No.
Because I'm thinking Cleveland, because I'm thinking Cleveland attacks Brook and pick and roll with Garland and Mitchell. But then if you go small, then you have, Kuzma and Mobley? Or I guess Kuzma on Allen and Giannis on Mobley? Because I don't want Kuzma guarding a center. The Cavs are just a mismatch. Like, they don't even count.
My answer is Detroit.
I was going to say Detroit. Detroit, yeah.
Okay.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one where Brook is fine.
Elite transition?
Yeah, dude, I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of where my head's at. I wish they had more center versatility. Like, dude, imagine if they had Daniel Gafford, man. Like, that'd be such a beautiful fit next to Giannis as an athletic 5 on both ends. But yeah, like I said, if I was the coach, I'd go Giannis at the 5 more, depending on the matchup. But most matchups, I like Giannis at the 5 in the playoffs. I'd start AJ Green. Even if you're going Giannis at the 4, I'd start AJ as the 2. Live with the Dame and AJ backcourt and just try and outgun teams. Because, like, if you have Brook on the court, you're not going to stop Cleveland or Boston anyways. So at least try to match their firepower by getting one of the best shooters. Because AJ Green's one of the best shooters on the planet. That guy's got a freaking clip, dude. So, yeah, I don't know. I am glad, though. Like, going back, I kind of went off, like, topic with the Kuzma stuff. I do like the fit. I didn't 100% see the vision right away. I saw why they wanted to get younger and more athletic. But now that I see, like, the slashing, the secondary rim protection, the rebounding, I do think it brings a dynamic that they desperately needed, and it takes Andre Jackson out of the lineup. And Andre Jackson was probably like one of the biggest offensive liabilities in the league playing
Which
minutes.
sucks because he does like so many intangible things that you love, but
Yeah.
he does absolutely nothing for you.
But his defense on Shea in the in-season tournament was like some of the best I've ever seen on Shea.
Yeah. Damn.
So, yeah. But yeah, Bucks are good. Bucks are good. I kind of was hating on Brook Lopez for a little bit too much there. Bucks are good. Giannis and Dame are good. Speaking of the Pistons, you brought them up.
Yeah.
That's another team we got to talk about. I think they are also 8-2 in their last 10. Let me check. Yep, 8-2 in their last 10. I saw a stat. I think it might have been the last 10 or 15 games. They've had the number 2 defense in the NBA, which I think is actually behind the Lakers. Funny enough. The Pistons defense, I was able to watch a little bit this morning because I wanted to get more into like the specifics of what's actually happening. Have you been able to catch any Pistons defense, or do you have any takes on the Pistons defense?
I've seen some of it. I haven't gotten to dive in too much as I've maybe wanted to, but I have some knowledge. But I'll let you carry the start. I'll feed off of you.
I think the main thing is they got Asar Thompson back from the injury he was struggling with, and he's just straight up one of the best defenders on the planet. There's literally nothing he can't do on the court. He's got insane agility and hip mobility. Maybe the best screen navigator in the league. You know exactly which clip I'm talking about if I talk about screen navigation. Where he fought through like 7 screens and then stripped, I can't remember who it was. He stripped like a really good ball handler after fighting through like 7 screens. He is vertical at the rim. He's an elite rebounder. He's great in passing lanes. Like I said, there's nothing he can't do defensively. He's one of the greatest defensive chess pieces in the game. And then you work around that. It's like, okay, Tobias Harris maybe isn't this big defensive presence, but he's a big 6'8" and can move his feet pretty well. Like, they'll use him on the ball against bigger forwards, and it's okay. Like, he's fine. Cade, legitimately solid defender at this point, especially. Like, they use him at the point of attack quite a bit. Can get around screens, pretty switchable because of his size. Good at keeping the ball in front. He had some good possessions against Harden and Harden's 50 ball. I think you got Ron Holland. That's a guy that you like defensively. Beef Stew, one of the better rim protectors in the league this year and a really good drop defender. Pretty weak rebounder, but you get him on the floor with Asar, Cade, and Tobias, and all of a sudden you have way more than enough rebounding. It's not a problem. He just needs to protect the rim and block shots, and then the guys will rotate behind him. Stewart, really good rim protector this year. Another guy that I think kind of flies under the radar and is a big part of this defensive stretch, Dennis Schroeder, is a legitimately just good point of attack guard off the bench. And he's come in and done that role. I think Marcus Sasser is also a pretty decent defender. I was watching the Pistons earlier defend, and I feel like when you watch certain teams, you pick up on like, okay, this is our principle. You watch the Lakers, it's like the low man's always going to be over early. They're always going to be pushing the ball to the sideline.
They want to peel switch as much as possible.
Right. You look at the Pistons, and I straight up think it's just like, we have really, really good personnel, and we're going to play very traditional defense. Like, we're going to drop our big. We're going to drop our big. We're going to switch between the wings, and we're fine. That's how I feel.
I'm so glad you said that because I'm like, I feel like I'm supposed to be. Am I missing something?
No, they're just good. Like, they just have good defenders.
Yeah.
And that's so good for JB Bickerstaff because he's such like a vanilla approach coach. That was a bar. That was a bar.
And JB, I think is a good defensive coach, especially. I mean, he gave him good defensive personnel. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like a lot of this stuff has been, a lot of stuff I've seen on Twitter has been Jalen Duren's taking a step defensively, which I don't want to come off as a hater and say that it's not true, but I really do just think it's like, well, like JB's a good defensive coach. I think the team's just bought in around JB more this year. I think Cade's taken a significant leap defensively. I think having Asar here is doing wonders for them. Dennis, like you said, is a really good point of attack guard. And I think, playing drop, yes, you need your big to be able to play the cat and mouse game, knowing there's a 7-footer rolling behind you and be able to like show at the level of the screen to, not just allow a downhill drive from, X guard, dynamic scoring guard. But when you have 2 for sure elite screen navigators in Dennis and Asar, and then you have other capable switchable guards and wings on the team, And then, like, even, like, with the low-man rotation, there's the play I was watching some of the defensive stuff against, might have been Boston, maybe, and it was just a random pick and roll, and Cade made a perfect rotation as, like, the low man and got a steal there to get out on a break. It's like, if you have more bought-in weak-side guys to help you if you're in drop, and then you have elite point-of-attack defenders, or at least, 4 good point-of-attack options at the very least, yeah, your job's going to be a hell of a lot easier than it's been in years past. So I don't want to, like, not give Duren his credit, because I think he's been fine. I think he was one of the worst drop bigs last season. I think, metrically and impact data wise, he's graded out way better compared to last season. But I'm like, yeah, he's fine. But, kind of to your point, it's like, okay, they've upgraded the coaching, and then you have, like, just really good personnel around you. Like, I don't know. Am I tripping, or are you kind of fall in line there?
No, I do think Duren, like, I don't think he's been this just straight up good defender. I do think there has been a difference between, okay, this is like a cat level drop defender, and now you're at least, like, doing your job better and being more tenable. I also think the Pistons, from what I saw, this could have just been like isolated sample and I was missing. It seemed like they had Duren hedging a lot more, coming out to the level, because he does move pretty well. He's pretty.
He has good mobility.
Freak athlete. He's a freak athlete, so he can move his feet. Stewart only plays drop, from what I've seen. Stewart only plays drop. So Duren, I think they're willing to get a little bit more flexible. I also think Duren has some redeemable qualities. Like, he's probably one of the 5 to 7 best defensive rebounders in the league. That matters. That matters quite a bit when you have a bunch of guys who are going to force jumpers over the top by cutting off drives. I also think super physical post defender. So you get him against a guy like Cat or against recently Zubats, and he's going to push him out. He's going to make things tough there. He's got, like, a pretty freakishly long arms. So, like, still just a presence all around. And I think, like you just hinted at, when you get all of these good guys to make your job easier, you can lean into those physical tools more. So whereas last year you have a bunch of negative defenders around him, it's like, okay, I need to cover the 2-on-1 perfectly, or someone's going to get a good shot. Whereas now it's like, okay, if I just don't give up that lob, I'll at least be in a position to reach into a driving lane or block a shot or grab a rebound. And I think that it's just been mostly that. I think it's just like, he is doing his job a little bit better, but also his job has become a lot easier. And just the fact that the Pistons have some really good defensive personnel.
How good is Asar Thompson?
That dude's insane. He's also, like, leaping offensively too. Asar's crazy. Moving on though, another team that's been elite defensively from start to finish, but is maybe the worst offensive team in the league. The Orlando Magic. I had the displeasure of watching last night's game against the Bulls.
Cost me $2,600, but who's really keeping track here?
They were in control of the game the entire time. The entire time I was watching, the Bulls threw a zone in the fourth quarter, and the Magic looked like they were a middle school basketball team. It was absolutely horrendous. Issues top to bottom. Every time I watch the Magic, there are issues top to bottom, and I don't even know where do you want to start with the Magic offense?
God forbid a bunch of 24-year-olds can't solve a zone offense at 2025. Jeez. I want to start off with this, and we can kind of progress from here, but I want to get this take off, and I put it on Twitter earlier, or X, whatever the hell you want to call it. I really, 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 really don't want them to blow this up. Or, like, do the, you got to separate Paolo and Franz thing, or, let's trade Suggs, or do this and do that. Or or super overreact and fire Jamal Mosley or something, like, drastic like that. Really, really, really don't want them to do this. One, I think Jamal Mosley is still the guy. I think everybody you talk to that has closely covered the Orlando Magic, since he's gone there, has talked about the culture he's established in Orlando, and thinks they've consistently been really, really good defenses since he's been there. Got to figure out the offensive side of the ball, sure, but I still have decent levels of confidence that he's the guy going forward for Orlando. And then Paolo and Franz, I think it's tough, because I think the natural thing to do is compare them to young Tatum and young Jaylen Brown. Yeah. I think that's the natural thing to do. But at the end of the day, man, this team has just been screwed by injuries for most of the year. Jalen Suggs was legit taking another breakout offensively.
Yes.
He gets hurt. Paolo looks like a top 10 player for the first 5 games of the year. He gets hurt. Then you lose Franz to the same exact injury. You lose Mo Wagner to ACL, I think, if I recall correctly, or was it Achilles?
It was something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he was playing really good too.
He was playing really, really well. You lose Goga too. Actually, I forgot about that one. Yeah. They've just been absolutely just wrecked by injuries. KCP has not been good for them. He was supposed to be brought in to provide shooting and just spacing in the half court for Orlando, that a team that's desperately needed it, and he has not done a great job at that for them.
Dude, you know what's crazy? I'm looking at it now. One of their healthiest players this season has been Jonathan Isaac. You know how sad that is? You know how crazy, I don't even know if sad's the word, but you know how crazy that is?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Jonathan Isaac is playing some of the most games on your team after everything he went through.
Out of all the players, they just can't score. Their offense is just an absolute drag to watch.
It's so bad. It's even fully healthy, I think it'd be so bad. And there's a couple issues. I think one, and this is to your point on the Brown and Tatum thing, and why I don't see Paolo and Franz taking that type of leap, even if I agree, don't break up Paolo and Franz. They both have really serious star potential. The problem is both of them are bad 3-point shooters. So you are starting an offense with 2 big playmaking forwards who cannot shoot the 3. They're both shooting exactly 30.6%. Both were pretty poor last year. Paolo actually, I think, had a higher percentage last year, but it was all mostly open threes off the catch. It wasn't like he's Tatum. Tatum's just straight up an elite shooter off the dribble. You don't have that with either of those guys. Even Jaylen Brown, I think Jaylen Brown's kind of an overrated 3-point shooter just because he takes him at volume, but he's still a threat. You know what I mean? Remember when Draymond didn't guard him in that one game and he started with 5 threes? That was the strategy to let Jaylen Brown shoot threes, and I don't see that happening with Franz and Paolo.
And he was
they're just not that caliber of shooter. And then it's okay, they don't have shooting at all. The only player, since Mo Wagner got hurt, the only player on the team shooting over 34% from 3 is Cole Anthony. And it's usually every team has those low volume guys that can get up to 40%, where it's 1-3 a game. Joe Ingles last year was that for them. Dude, they have one shooter over 34%. As a team, they are 30.6% from 3. That is problem number 1. You have 0 shooting in an era where shooting is critical. You have 0 of it. You have nothing. Second, they don't have a real point guard. Cole Anthony's the closest thing they have to a real point guard. They have no one to set the table. So I think Paolo's development is just getting shot because it's the ideal version of Paolo, I think, has a lot more off-ball stuff mixed into his game, short roll stuff, just rolling in general. He's 6'10", 250, and he can finish above the rim. He's just get him in the pick and roll. But you can't run pick and roll with him and Franz because Franz is looking to turn the corner and slash. He's not looking to make that pocket pass. He's not a pull-up 3 threat. So I remember, I would have loved to see them get Chris Paul. That would have worked wonders for Paolo's development, having a pick and roll partner like Chris Paul. So that already forces Paolo to be a point guard. And then you get these weird tendencies where before the injury, he was lower in the shoulder, getting super aggressive. Now that the obliques hurt, he's kind of regressed back to that, I'm going to slowly take my time and get to the step back long too. Well, when you're forcing him to play point guard, there's no shooting. The entire defense is zoned in. What else do you expect him to do?
Yeah.
There's nothing else he can do. He can kick it to a missed 3, or he can
kick it to a missed
step back into a long 2. What do you want him to do? And I think, I don't want to act like Paolo's
that should have been that funny. I'm sorry.
Absolvent of blame. He does still obviously deserve some blame for just not cleaning up the shot selection at times, not cleaning up the turnovers. These are problems with his development. And I do think they're exaggerated by the injury, but still clearly a problem at this point. But he's in one of the worst possible, the Magic are doing, I like their young core. I like that they have a lot of good players, but the way they function as a unit with the fit, I almost feel like they're doing a masterclass in how not to build around a number 1 pick. Look at what the Pistons did with Cade. They went in, got a bunch of shooters.
Long ass time, but
got a bunch of shooters, got a bunch of athletic defenders, and it was Cade, we're just gonna lean into your skill set and we're gonna do everything around you. And then Paolo's
took him forever, but
yeah, it did, but it happened. And then with Paolo, it's like they've regressed in that department. They've gotten worse since last year. Jalen Suggs was taking a leap, but that's another guy who really hasn't been a proven 3-point shooter. So if that's the direction, Suggs, Paolo, Franz, you need 2 really, really good shooters to round out that starting 5. And I love all 3 of those guys individually, but I don't really see how the fit works long-term with that trio unless 1 or 2 of them take serious leaps as spacers.
Yeah.
It
like, sucks because like another player.
We were talking about like Derek, like this could be your Derek White, Tatum, Brown. Derek White and Tatum are both like elite shooters, and then Brown's another decent shooter. We're talking about 3 shooters.
Ew, were we really saying that? Like
we were.
Oh my god, that's
well.
Nasty.
We weren't saying they were that, but we were saying that was the vision, like for the Magic building through those 3. Not that they were gonna be White, Tatum, Brown.
That's still kind of nasty.
That's kind of where my head's at. It's kind of where my head's at.
And it sucks. So like another player that they have that's super young and I really, really liked coming out is Anthony Black, who's such a good defender. But he falls into the same exact problem. Can't shoot.
Jalen Suggs can't shoot. Oh man, yeah. Yeah, Jonathan Isaac can't shoot. One of the best defenders on the planet. Shooting
Anthony
20.
Black and Jalen Suggs, 2 of the best guard defenders on the planet.
Suggs actually might just be the best guard defender in the planet.
Yeah.
And he's a good slasher. I don't know. So let me ask you this then. Say you absolutely have to pick 2 of the 3. What is the duo you choose and who's the guy you trade?
I don't want to sound like a hypocrite.
Because I also
gun to my head, I'm going Paolo Suggs. Gun to my head.
Okay, so I was thinking you would trade Paolo. And the only reason I say that is because I think Paolo at this point still has the biggest return because of the I don't want to say mystique because that's kind of a weird word to use for a 3rd-year player. But you know what I mean? Like there's a clear like superstar vision there that I feel like doesn't exist with Franz, even if Franz has been the better player this season. Is that even a hot take? Franz has been the better player this season on both ends. Paolo having like that number 1 pick mystique and just like the flashes we see when he is playing physical and getting downhill. I bet there's a team out there that's like, wait, if we just get Paolo with 4 shooters, he's like kind of disgusting. And then
okay.
But then Suggs and Franz, like the Magic development kind of relies on that superstar leap from someone. And Paolo is the most likely. Like I do think he clearly has the most upside.
I was about to say, like, doesn't that logic like work for you in the same sense of like, all right, yeah, maybe that's why we should have traded Paolo. Because
I don't know.
Let us be the team that gets three good shooters around him or something.
What if you go Paolo and Franz and trade? But I feel like it's got to be one of Franz or Paolo because that's where you get the serious return.
If you are trading somebody out, yeah. So that's why I say, gun in my head, I'm going.
I feel like you're not going to get much for Suggs, even though he's a really, really good player. Because Franz and Paolo are like all-star level players who are still young.
Yeah. But like,
I don't know. I wouldn't trade any of the 3 personally. I'd wait it out. But I'm saying if you had to, if you had to, I think it'd be some interesting conversations. It'd be I would not want to be a part of that front office trying to make that decision.
Yeah.
Maybe just put them all on the block and say, send your offers. Let's see and then see what we're working with. I don't know.
Best bidder gets all of them. I quit.
Right. Another team. This is moving out west. That looks pretty bad. The Grizzlies are kind of sliding, and some of it is the Jaren Jackson Jr. being hurt for a couple games now. Some of it is also they had like 3 losses in a row to game winners. Did you see that?
Yeah. It was Knicks OG. Knicks OG.
I can't remember. It's bothering me now, though, because I
Hawks
can picture.
had one, and then I think Fox gamed them. I think those
Fox. It was
3.
Fox. Yep, you're right. You just cooked. Yeah, that's just luck. Like it's
some of that's luck,
right? Like 3 possessions and you have a 3-win streak instead of a 3 losing streak. But I think there are fundamental problems with the Grizzlies, and I think you know very well one of them because we were talking about it off screen. So I'll let you take the floor. Grizzlies sliding. What are you thinking?
So as high as I was on them coming into the year, which I'm still like not falling off of that because my take ending the year was, this is a walking 50-win regular season team, which I mean they kind of started to slip off that pace right now. They're 38-24, so that means they got to go 12-8. They could go 12-8. They go 12-8 to end the year.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. There's only 20 games left.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's insane.
That's crazy.
So yeah, walking 50-win team when they're healthy. So and I still think that's kind of accurate. But the reason why the entire time we've been talking playoff hypotheticals for at least 10 episodes now, I feel, maybe a little bit further back than that, and I was a little hesitant to just flat out talk about Ja in a negative sense. He's been bad. Yeah. And that's the biggest reason why I've never been able to get behind Memphis as a serious threat in the playoffs, because your ideal playoff one is not a good half-court player. He has been an awful half-court scorer this season. He is still in the upper echelon of elite passers in the league. Yep. Some of the levels of reads that he can get to, can make any pass in the book. Kind of not the efficient passer in terms of limiting turnovers as a guy like a Halliburton might be. That's just the first guy that comes to my mind, but still near that crop of guys in terms of the rim pressure he puts. He still applies it. The gravity he creates because of his passing. But legitimately as a scorer, their best half-court scorer is Jaren Jackson Jr., which I'm not taking seriously in a playoff series. Because I don't know exactly off the top of my head how Jaren's played in this particular matchup, but this might be a little bit recency bias. Not even. Am I crazy for taking Houston in a series over Memphis? Is that an insane thing to do?
They've had some battles. They've been rivals this season, so that'd be a fun series too. Because Dylan Brooks and Steven Adams against Memphis, the beef there, the two teams that are very flawed but fun.
Yeah.
I think Jaren fried them in the one game I watched.
Yeah.
They put Dylan Brooks on him, and he just bullied Brooks.
Yeah, I remember that.
Jaren's a mismatch for everyone.
They weren't healthy, I don't think, were they?
I don't know. I don't remember.
But regardless.
This was a decent while ago.
And then, the biggest strengths of Memphis, I've said this before, the biggest strengths of Memphis to me are either A, completely erased come playoff time, or B, significantly lessened. And that's how fast they play and their transition scoring. That's not going to be completely erased because, you play that fast. It's going to still, to some, extent, help you in the playoff setting still. But, it is going to slow down to a certain extent, so you're not going to be able to solely rely upon that. And then your depth, having 15 guys that are legitimate NBA rotation players, but you can't play 14 or 13 NBA rotation guys in a playoff setting. And then even how unique their half-court offense is by being the team that runs the least amount of ball screens in the NBA, that's going to get kind of bottled, and you have to turn it to being the ball screen team when John Moran's not a good half-court player anymore. So I'm so glad
you brought that up, because I actually think that's been the biggest problem with Ja's play, is the fact that going back, you watch all of his prime years. I don't even want to say he's out of his prime. He's still young, but he relies very heavily on screens to create advantages. That's why the guy like Steven Adams was such a good fit with him.
Yeah.
And before that, Valanciunas. He relies on these giant screeners to create advantages for him. So now he's in a situation where they aren't doing ball screens, and he has to break down his man one-on-one or in transition. And I just do not think he's that type of player where he's going to consistently take a defender one-on-one and beat him consistently. Because here's the problem that I have with Ja. I don't know if it's necessarily that he's regressed as a player since that point. I almost want to say he hasn't progressed, so teams are just having an easier and easier time guarding him. You look at Ja's productivity across the board. He hasn't improved his mid-range game at all since entering the league. His floater has remained pretty much the exact same since entering the league. Now he's managing the injuries more by going less vertical at the rim. So that's just a little bit worse and less effective. He's not finishing around or over shot blockers as much. Still can't shoot the three. And so you have this player who's a small guard and has to basically get within 7 feet to score. Then you're not screening for him. What do you expect him to do? He's not Jalen Brunson. You can't just clear out. Jalen Brunson in that offense with no screens would look freaking ferocious. But Ja doesn't have that type of scoring game. He needs the screen. He needs the 2-on-1, and then he can get downhill, and that's where he's at his best. So, yeah, I think the Grizzlies are a really fun team. Like you said, 50-win threat easily. In the playoffs, I think their offense is going to fall apart into a lot of Jaren Jackson ISO. And that is a good offense this year. Like Jaren Jackson isolations, he's such a mismatch for pretty much every team. But I do think there are things you can do to force the ball out of his hands because he's a weaker passer. And then I don't think they're the type of defense that you can fall back on and be like, yeah, our offense is going to get shut down, but we're going to get so many stops and get out in transition. Like the Grizzlies are a good defense, but they aren't that caliber of defense. Like that's when I think of that, I think of like OKC. I'm like, if OKC's offense falls apart and they're just relying on Shea to carry the load, their defense gives them such a high floor. That's not how I feel about Memphis. And it's like what I talked about with Brook Lopez. We're going to see a lot of that with Zach Edey. Like Zach Edey getting played off the floor against these, like, dude, Memphis against Golden State. Like, am I crazy for thinking Golden State just mops them in a series?
No.
Like, that's just where I'm at.
Like, I really think,
Draymond at the 5, pulling Edey 30 feet out.
Yeah. So there's some nasty John Morant stats, and I'm gonna come off like a hater. I don't care. On pick and roll ball handler scoring possession, so any turnover, made or missed shot, or foul on a John Morant ball screen possession where he's the one that's having one of those 4 outcomes. Any player in the league, there's 71 players that fit this category, have at least 150 ball screen possessions, scoring possessions for them. John Morant 61st out of 71 players in efficiency, 0.798 points per possession. Some notable players that are ahead of him. I'm just going to throw out some names. Kevin Porter Jr. is higher on the list.
Okay.
Josh Giddey. 2025 Paul George is higher on the list than John Morant. Let's see. Any other Benedict Mathurin? That's not like depressing. I like Ben Math. Bub Carrington, the rookie. Shout out Bub. Jalen Green is higher. His own teammate Desmond Bane is a more efficient ball screen scorer than John Morant. Colin Sexton, look at Sexton being 16th on the list. Hell yeah. And then hold on, let's see. John Morant in terms of we are just gonna fulfill all the bad stuff here. John Morant in turnover percentage is 8th out of the 71 players, 8th highest turnover percentage on pick and roll scoring possessions. The only players with higher turnover percentage than Ja is Josh Giddey, Scoot Henderson, Anthony Black, James Harden, Denny Avdia, Isaiah Collier, and Russell Westbrook. So turn the ball over, non-efficient scorer out of pick and roll, and I mean he's doing a all right job getting to the line. He's like middle of the pack.
And he's still such a good playmaker, but I also think all of his best playmaking reads come off of screens, and you've taken that out of the offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Ja this season has probably been the Grizzlies' like 3rd best player. Like I think Jaren and Bane have both clearly been better. And
Yeah.
I'm sure there's another role player you could argue for. Like I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of impact metrics are telling us Santi Aldama's been more valuable than Ja. It wouldn't shock me at all. Whether or not he's actually a better player, I wouldn't go that far. But
what sucks is like their build is so fun as a team.
it is.
They have such a fun roster build
And a fun scheme. Like their scheme is fun. What, dude? You talked about how they need Ja to be their best half court scorer. Jaren and Bane are both like way better half court scorers at this point.
Like 2023 when they lost to LA in the first round. It's a fun team, right? A little bit more defensive oriented, but like
I thought that team was making the conference finals, dude.
Yeah, you were fried, pal. Give me that Ja.
Yeah.
With current version Desmond Bane, current version Jaren Jackson Jr. And just cook.
You know what Ja I want to see? Give me
21, 22?
No, I was going to say specifically, was it game 2 against the Warriors?
Yeah, game 2 against Golden State.
And he broke Jordan Poole's ankles on a half spin gather. Like, come on, bro. That version of Ja was like the most fun I've ever had watching a player damn near. And I was so high on Ja this season too. I remember I was on the Nerd Sesh podcast.
We both were.
I was on the Nerd Sesh podcast like a couple months ago. And I remember we were talking about like the best players in the league. And I had such a hot take because one of their questions was, how many players are you taking over Jaren Jackson Jr.? And then that looped into a who's the best player on the Grizzlies discussion. At this point, I think we both unequivocally agree that it is Jaren Jackson Jr. But back then, I was still holding out hope that Ja could get back to that level. And I remember I was saying at that time that I thought Ja could be that level, like 2022 level as a scorer, but had taken another step forward as a passer, because I think this is the best passing version of Ja we've seen. And I was like, if you have Ja 2022 scoring, Ja 2025 passing, and this is like a legit combined player, I had the hot take. I was like, I think Ja Morant would probably be better than Anthony Edwards. And they were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And now I'm like, whoa, I can't believe I said that. Because now I'm watching Ja every game, and I'm like, he's not even a good half-court scorer at all, let alone a top 12 player in the league.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's I was so high on Ja, and I still am high on those versions of Ja. Like 2022, 2023 Ja, freak player. I want to dive more into it and see what's actually happened. I haven't like specifically watched Ja Morant possessions, and I'm like, what's the difference? I really do think it's just teams figuring out how to guard him and him not progressing.
Game 3 against the Lakers, 45, 9, and 13, 3 turnovers, 13 of 26 shooting. Let's see. Let's
that Warriors game was
Game 2, 47, 8, and 8, 15 of 31 shooting.
Dude, and he had like 25 in the fourth. It was, and that was the championship Warriors who were like one of the best defenses of all time. And he diced them up like I'd never seen anything like that.
Month of February, that same season, the month of February, he averaged 33, including 2 40-point games and a 50-point game in that month. I mean, hell, the month before, 29, 6, and 7. Like,
dude.
Ja, when he's playing really, really well, is legit one of the funnest players in the league to watch. And it just sucks.
Yeah, I'm with you. I want to throw one more number at you. In the fourth quarter of that game 2 against the Warriors as a team scored 24 points on 22 shot attempts. Okay. Ja Morant had 18 points and 11 shot attempts in 8 minutes and 55 seconds of play. He sat 3 minutes and still scored 18 points in the fourth against the best playoff defense, like, since who knows. That version of Ja was absolutely, he single-handedly. This is the stats from that fourth quarter. Ja Morant 18 points, Desmond Bane 0 points, 0 of 2, Jaren Jackson 0 points, 0 of 1, Zaire Williams 6 points. Both of them were threes, and I'd be willing to bet both of them were created by Ja. Brandon Clark 0 points in all 12, or 2 points, my bad, 2 free throws in 12 minutes. DeAnthony Melton 0 points, 9 minutes. Tyus Jones 1 2-pointer and 1 free throw. And then Kyle Anderson 0 points. He was the entire offense and single-handedly won them that game. They won by 5. It was tied going into the fourth, and they won by 5. And it was all Ja. And he just can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to end the pod. I'm ready to wrap it up there.
No Dallas?
No, we'll talk about Dallas. We'll talk about Dallas next time. All right. I think that's a good place to stop, though. If you guys enjoyed, and if you're still listening to this point, we really appreciate it. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, it's always appreciated if you do a 5-star review. That'd mean a lot for us. If you're watching on YouTube, a like, subscribe, and a comment would do the job. Make sure you follow us on social media. My stuff is all Hoop Venue. Hoop Venue _ on Twitter and Instagram, Hoop Venue on YouTube. If you just look up Hoop Venue, you'll find something. Tyler Britton _ is my social medias on all other platforms, personally. And Sean, you can find Sean on Twitter, Sean _ DAVI. On Instagram, Sean _ Davis 23. He's got 2 YouTube channels, the Sports Headline Show and the Los Angeles Lakers Network. If you're watching on YouTube, all of those beautiful links will be in the description for you. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, you'll just have to look it up. But like I said, I really appreciate you guys listening to all of our episodes, not just this one. And we will catch you guys next time in episode number 32.